You've written speeches for Richard Nixon, Nelson Rockefeller. I mean, you've were mentored, I think, by Henry Kissinger. Obviously, Ronald Reagan quoted your work a lot. What's it like working with these powerful people?
I, you know, I actually, my rule when I worked for politicians was to see them as little as possible. The crucial thing is that I was a speechwriter, and the key thing is they want the best speech they can get for a particular audience. And but if I talk to them before the speech, I have to pay excessive attention to what happens to be in their mind at that particular time. And ordinarily, the meeting with the speechwriter is not a central activity of that day. And I find it a waste of time to talk to politicians. I used to work at night. I'd go to the offices at night and write the speeches during the night where I wouldn't be interfered with, and then deliver the speech on the politician's desk the next morning and go back to my apartment and sleep. So I didn't, my worst job was working for Jacob Javits, who was a really brilliant guy who cared a lot about speeches and wanted to tell you exactly what to write. I had nothing to offer for Jacob Javits. But the best person was Nixon. Nixon would read word for word everything you wrote. I mean, he was just, he hired good speechwriters, and they really were terrific, from Pat Buchanan to Jeffrey Hart. And I wrote a lot of speeches, and he would read them word for word. And he did very well with his speeches. Nelson Rockefeller was dyslexic and not especially good at delivering speeches, particularly if you had to read them. So Nelson Rockefeller, you didn't want him to be reading speeches. You wanted him to be talking extemporaneously. He was very good at talking extemporaneously. He couldn't read a speech. Bob Dole was impossible because he liked telling jokes and doing anecdotes, and I worked for Bob Dole, and he would sometimes laboriously read the first paragraph of the speech I'd written for him, and then he'd throw it away and launch onto a series of his very entertaining monologues. I had a lot of. I enjoyed my time with politicians, but I didn't spend much time with them.
And they'd call you up because you were the economist that knew what he was talking about and could help them communicate.
Well, I was. In the early years, I was just a writer.
Okay.
I've spent a whole year in Lansing, Michigan, writing a book for George Romney called The Mission and the Dream. And this was when Romney was running for president. And he ended up not running for president, and I ended up not getting paid for the book, which meant I pretty much had rights to everything in it. And I converted it into Wealth and Poverty 10 years later. That was why I could write Wealth and Poverty in time to come out before the Reagan administration. And the Reagan adopted Wealth and Poverty. It was a wonderful development for me.